What is up, YouTube? Bringing you a tier list today. I haven't done one of these in a while. Just so many changes and everything. I didn't see the point, but it's been so long. I really want to catch up, so we're gonna go ahead and knock one out. If anything seems out of place for you, just say something in the comments, ask a question, whatever. I will respond. I might mess up. Plan is, hopefully I don't mess up. So we're gonna go ahead and we are going to use the legend here, if I can get it to come up. Alright, so got the legend here. This is on juice.gg, obviously, if anyone else wants to use it. But you got SS tier, our god tiered characters, which have the innate ability to be placed on any team. So these are your super OP, carry the game no matter what. Your S plus are your top tier. They're usually the ones that actually get banned and picked and aren't the ones that need nerfs. SS are the ones that absolutely need nerfs. Your S plus are just your top picks, top bans, number one. Still also usually going to carry a team or going to control a game. Your S tier are slightly above point of balance. This pool of gods should compromise the team composition for most competitive games. So these are the gods, in my opinion, that end up making it through a lot more than others and are still very, very strong. You got your A tier, which are your focal point of balance. These gods don't need nerfs. They're perfect. They're fine. They aren't getting nerfed very often, and they're picked a lot. B tier are somewhat strong, but not competitively viable. So these are the ones that are very situational, like your Odin, for example. And then C, weak overall, usually not going to be picked. D, poo-poo. So we're going to go ahead and jump back in, actually doing the tier list. So if you got Agni, we're going to go with A. God can be played, isn't super strong. Weak early clear is the main reason for Agni not being a top pick. Once you get into team fights, pretty strong, but still not the best. He's just one of those gods that doesn't need to be changed. He can fit into some team comps to most, and it's not really based on the team comp. It's kind of more based on, am I going to be able to get away with this based on who I'm playing against. Now that we have Agni placed into A, we're moving on to AMC. AMC is just not that good, considering we're going fully on the legend. Don't base this off of any other tier list you've seen or anything. Base this off the legend. AMC can only be played in the perfect team comp where you have full control and you're safe and the other team doesn't have like globals to dive you. You just need to be safe. It's kind of like you want to run Anubis, you need to have like a Thor and a Geb and another front line, and you need to be able to fully protect and push away for the Anubis. It's kind of the same thing for AMC. Pooch, also going to be B tier. He doesn't really bring too much. He has a lot of damage, but it needs to be set up. He has no mobility, so being dove is very, very scary. Ever since Hog was taken out of the game and Assassins and everybody were able to pick up Blink, it's very, very risky to pick this god. It will continue to be until they change his kit around a little bit. Honor is awesome. With the Golden Bow addition, the problem with Honor used to be that he couldn't clear without using all his mana. He'd always run out of mana. He didn't have enough mana because his abilities cost so much. So now that he can clear with Golden Bow, it doesn't need to use abilities the entire time to clear. He's a lot stronger. They also buffed his passive, so you see him a lot more. He's a safe pick, not so much situational. You can kind of throw him into most team comps. You obviously don't want to pick him into like an Oelix and certain things like that. But otherwise, great pick. You should be able to do well. Basically, the ADCs right now you're picking based on who you like to play and your matchups, not necessarily whether they're viable or not. AMC, or sorry, not AMC. Amaterasu is going to be A plus tier. Her laning phase is kind of weak, but once you get out of laning phase, she's insanely strong in team fights. The ult just pushes everyone away. It's easy dive. You're super safe. You're immune. You slow and then you stun at the end of it. Most people don't want to beads it because it's on once you have cooldown. It's pretty short cooldown, and the god is scary even without the ult. You have a dash that silences, you have a ton of damage. You can cause other people in your team to do more damage to people. Just a great pick. You see her a lot in the SPL. Something for you to think about as a solo laner to play. Anubis, B tier, 100% situational, just like the other two picks in B tier. Super immobile, which is risky, high damage potential, but needs the perfect team comp. Ao Kuang, A plus tier. Now in my tier list, not my tier list, my top 5 junglers list, I never put Ao Kuang in the top 5. It doesn't mean he's not strong, but the reason for it is more so the other ones are more not predictable. That's not the word I'm looking for. For some reason, that's what comes to my head. They're more common. They're the gods that you can get away with more often. They don't require as much playstyle or as much shift in what you want to do from game to game. Ao Kuang has a weak early game, so a lot of the time you have to give up farm, and people aren't used to doing that, so I don't want to ever recommend Ao Kuang to be in your top 5. But at a competitive level, Ao Kuang is very strong. Like I said, you give up a lot of the early game. Sometimes you want to pair this with a strong mid as early game. If the other team doesn't pick very much early game, Ao Kuang becomes that much better. He's just good mid to late game, finish a couple items, and he dumpsters. But it's risky because the right teams are going to invade. They're going to take advantage. They're going to focus the Ao Kuang. You can get away with this a lot more in ranked and casuals, that is for sure. Aphrodite, B tier. There's nowhere for her to play right now. She's not a solo laner. She's not a mid laner. She doesn't have crazy clear. The assassins that are super late game, Ao Kuang, the Mercury, the Kali, while they're good gods, they just don't need the Aphrodite to be super viable, and Aphrodite is more of a liability. So B tier, she really doesn't, honestly, I want to put her at C, but it's not fair. She's not poop. There's just nowhere for her in the meta right now. I'm sure someone will figure it out, put her in the meta somehow, but it's also very easy to get anti-healing. Brawlers is in almost every build. You can pick up a weakening because like supports don't have hog in the thing for a while, so it's easy to pick up a weakening. It's just very, very risky to pick Aphrodite, and it's not gonna work out in your favor very often. Apollo, A+ tier. Global presence, insanely good. His lane clear is good because he has golden bow. He does a lot of damage. He's safe against a lot of the assassins and a lot of the close range characters because of his mez. He's just very, very good. If you use the ult properly, you can control a game because you cannot rotate every other ADC. Maybe Jingwei, who backs and flies into the fight, would be the only thing that could rotate just as fast. So use Apollo's global ult properly and you will get a lot more success. Arachne, B+ tier. I don't think Arachne is complete poop. I think she has a place, can be played. We've seen her in the SPL once or twice. I play her in ranked every once in a while. She's good against Ao Kuang. She's good against Loki. Anything with an invis, Arachne really counters. You have to be super aggressive early game and get a lead. If you don't get a lead on Arachne, it won't work out in your favor. You also want to look to do early gold furies when you pick this god. But she's B+ because she's situational. I really only play her into those invises. There's so many good assassins that there's no reason for you to play Arachne right now. There's no team comps that Arachne is just the best. They have an invis. I usually pick it. I like Arachne against Kali also because you can outbox Kali, and then if Kali ults, you can ult and then just land on her right when the ult falls off. Kali dies. You have amazing boxing potential, but too bad this isn't a boxing game. This isn't a one-on-one that's fighting the jungle game. 5-on-5, and you have to pick based on that. Ares, A tier. You need to be a good Ares player, but Ares is really good. Your laning phase usually goes pretty poorly, unless the other team picks weird. But your team fight and your aggression, especially in this early meta, if you're invading speed buff and you guys are just diving, looking for the fight at their speed buff, you can crush. Ares does like 500 damage with chains early game. Like level 5, level 6, you're doing a buttload of damage. So take advantage of that when you play Ares. Play Ares in most team comps. You want to have lane clear in the duo lane, just at least enough to kind of match whatever lane you're with. Not going to happen every time, but that's something to think about. Make sure you pick decent lane clear, Rama, whatever you want to pick with Ares. Plus, comboing the ult with other ults in mid and jungle is OP. If you have a Humbats burns beads, and then Ares comes up with an ult. Artemis. I've seen Artemis played more because of Panda Cat in the SPL. I'm not sure exactly where to place her because I don't think she's that good. I think she's more situational, so I'm actually going to put her at B+ until I see more. Lane clear is awesome with Golden Bow. The crits are so nasty when she actually gets the lucky crits. But this god, really, like usual, you need the right team comp. Either you need to be an all-in team comp or you need to be a Protect Artemis team comp. While that works a little bit better than the B tier, the regular B tier gods, because you have either playstyle, it's still risky because you have your ult, save your butt, but that's it. You don't have a dash, you don't have a leap. You have your ult, that's it. You just have to focus on your ult. So I don't recommend anyone learning her and putting a lot of time into her, but if she's your favorite god, go for it. Athena for me is going to be S tier. I think Athena is best support in the game by far. Taunts OP. She fits into every team comp. She can be aggressive in taunts and burning bees. She can be defensive with peel on the taunts. She's just really good. She has global pressure. She's one of those gods that is banned a lot or picked cursed a lot. So Athena is going to be S tier. Awelix A+. Awelix used to be very situational and team comp based, but she's just become so strong with the early game meta and the fact that so many people in the meta have knockups or so many people have dashes and leaps that she fits into just about every single team comp, no matter what. There's almost always somebody who has a leap, somebody who has a knockup on your team. Learn how to play her. She's really good in the jungle. Bacchus, A tier, kind of like Ares, really weak laning phase usually, but great team fight. The amount of damage that Bacchus puts out is unreal. If you're a support player, probably want to know what Bacchus does. You don't need to put a ton of time into him, but you need to know how to play him. Bacchusura, going to be A tier. I don't think Bacchus bad. I think he has a place in the meta, but most people rely more heavily on the warriors and the true assassins. Bacchus kind of in the middle of that, it seems like. And while there are players that get away with playing Bacca either in the jungle or the solo lane, it's not something you want to prioritize, but you can pick it, especially in ranked. You can pub stomp very hard with Bacchusura, so ranked is somewhere you want to focus more Bacchusura. Bastet, I hate Bastet. I hate her. I don't think she's good. I don't think she's a good early game. I don't think she's a good mid game. I don't think she's a good late game. A lot of people in ranked just split push with her the whole game, which is dumb, and it's really not that strong because you can beat it. I don't recommend learning how to play her. I don't know what team comp she fits into right now. Really just not played at all. Literally, I never see Bastet played at all, so I wouldn't recommend playing too much Bastet. Bellona, A tier as a solo laner. She's good. She's not the best. She can be picked whenever you need to. Some people are way more comfortable on her than other gods, but Bellona seems to be in a weird place. I actually like when the other team picks Bellona because I think she's easy to kill. There's a lot of free time right now to gank the solo lane, and I think Bellona's a lot easier to kill than some gods. Ravana's actually really difficult to kill with the immunity and the ult away. Bellona, you just need to get onto her, and then the second she ults, as long as you have some mobility to catch back up, she dies usually early game. That's why I wouldn't put her at like A+ or A-S. I don't think she's first pick at all. I just think she's pretty strong. Weak3n, we've seen played more and more and more. I don't like Weak3n. I think he's situational, super situational. The other team has to have like no leaps, or you have to have the right team comp. He does well against Scylla, and like I said, against gods that can't leap away and get away really fast. But there's a lot of counterplay to him. You can stun his flow, you can do this and that. If he falls behind early, he's done. Really needs to be defensive because he doesn't have a lot of mobility. He's kind of fast, but he doesn't have like a dash or anything. It's kind of scary. Chalk, B+ tier. He's a solo laner only. He doesn't lose lane, but he doesn't really crush lane, and he doesn't dumpster in team fights. He's not all that amazing unless your team is doing well. He's situational. There's a lot better solos. Don't put so much time into Chalk. Chunga, B+. I don't know where she fits in the meta. I think there is sometimes you can pick her. If solo laners get good at her and learn how to play her situationally, sure, pick her, go for it. Do a lot of sustained healing. She can do a little bit of poke damage. Her ult can be devastating, but not in the meta. Not a top pick. Not that good. It's better to just pick a warrior. Iron, A tier. Golden Bow's still good. He got nerfed a while back, so he's not played very often, but I think he's being being underestimated. I think he'd be played fine. I don't think he's situational. I think you can kind of just pick him, clear, play the god properly, do a lot of poke with your free attack, and use your ult right. Go. Chronos, A tier. He was top pick for the longest time, for a couple months, and he fell off really hard because people learned how to play against Chronos again. Chronos is somewhat safe with the ult, but you have to position well all the time or you'll keep getting caught out and dying over and over and over again. You don't want too much magic damage on your team. That's why he's not really high up for me, because usually Chronos is played in the ADC role. If you pick up another mage in the ADC role, that forces either you can't have like an Alquan on your team. It just changes up your team comp a lot. So Chronos is good, does a lot of damage, mid to late game focused, which is also another problem. You don't always win lane, you don't always do well in lane. Be risky, but he's a good pick. Cupid, B+ tier. Really good early game, decent mid game, not a good late game. The game is very heavily focused on early game, but with Cupid, even if you get ahead, you have to get massively ahead to do what other hunters do, it seems like. You don't really have a steroid, you don't have that much presence. Your ult can be annoying, but people can play around your ult very easily. I don't recommend putting a lot of time to Cupid either. Fenrir, A tier, he's not bad, he's not a top pick. You pick him in the jungle if you want to. You need some tanky items usually, unless you're massive carrying somehow and get super far ahead early. You have seen him in the SPL a decent amount. He's good for setup. The fact that Bede's on a really long cooldown, he's a little bit better than he used to be, just not the best. Next up, we have Freya. I don't like Freya at all. No mobility, no early game, risky pick, easy to dive. Not your best option. B+. I don't think she requires the greatest team comp for her to play. I think she requires a good player, like the perfect player, the perfect play style. She's risky. It's not a good pick. Yeb, A tier. Not a top pick. Loses lane, but his shield is OP. Great team fight. That's it. Guan Yu, A+. He just seems to be doing very well in the meta right now. Healing, even though you can get anti-healing very easily, people are managing to get into a fight, poke, fight a little bit, and then back off and reset and heal, and then go right back in. If you can do that on Guan or any Bane type healer like that, who has short cooldowns, or just blow up healing, kind of like Sylvanas, then you will win games that way. You will win games. Guan's good at diving. He can be played in the solo lane. I played him in the jungle a little bit, and he can be played in the support role. Got a lot to him right now. So I recommend learning how to play Guan if you play any of those roles. Maybe not so much in the jungle. Hades, A tier. I think he has a place in the meta. I don't think he's a top pick. Usually still a solo laner. We used to play him in the mid all the time, but it's kind of fallen off. He's kind of risky. Not as good. Especially now that Soulstone is so popular and it's easy for people to clear. Hades used to just out-clear everybody. Be risky. But he does counter some people in the solo lane, some warriors. He does very well against them. So it's still a possible pick. He's not a bad pick. Just not a top pick, so you don't see him very often. Ebo, situational. Ton of damage. No mobility. People can dive him and he'll get pooped on. Blink wrecks him. Like a Blink Circuit just dumpsters him. So if you know how to play Ebo, play him every once in a while, but don't put a lot of time into him. Hell. Healers aren't good right now. There's no place for Hell, no solo lane, no mid lane, nothing. So Hell's B tier, super situational, if you can even play her at all. Not bad as a god, she's just bad in the meta. Hercules is gonna be A tier. Once again, he's good. It's not so much situational as it is preference. Decent in the solo lane, there's better picks. Oyi, A+, great hunter. The 2 shred for protections is disgusting. If you're good at bouncing, hitting double, triple bounces, GG, because you get one shot. Like, there's some people that are very good at their ricochets on this god, and you get one shot. It literally hits for like 800 or 900 with an auto or two, and boom, you're dead. Like, he's a very strong. He has a team fight presence with his ult, and the fact that he can shred warriors for peeling. It's basically like a peel. He can turn on warriors who dive him or dive his mid, dive his mages, and it's super strong. Unbats, A+. While his early game is weaker, team fight has always just been so good. Unbats hasn't been in my top 5 for a bit, but I do think, kind of like Ao Kuang, it's just one of those gods that's safe. It's kind of like nothing really super hard counters him while Weak3n does well. Because his team fight is so good that as long as you make it out of that early game, you'll be okay in the rest of it. Isis, A+, very good early, carries through the early game, can fall off if you fall behind on farm. If you fall behind on Isis, you're screwed, it's scary. But he's got the presence of, he can be this massive damage dealer who starts fights, crushes, he can come to fights late and carry, or he uses bait, he uses ult properly, build a little bit defense, and bait a lot of damage, and it does very well a lot of the time. Janus, S tier. I think Janus is very strong. I think underrated while his early game can be weaker. Some people just play him phenomenally, and his early game isn't weak at all. So if you're playing Janus well, you'll be fine. The fact that he's a global ult, crazy. It's still amazing that the ult late game hits for like 1200, 1300, and can take your whole team across the map. Early game, you can set up ganks very easily. Anyone pushes up too far in their lane, you gank, then your ult behind them in the lane, come in behind them, kill them. Bingwei, A+, super strong, global presence, higher skill cap in my opinion. There aren't many people that play her at the top level, but the people that do, dumps her with her. You can do well in lane, there's a lot of good combos with her. Her ult is a great escape. It has a lot of mobility. Weak3n does well against her because all of her stuff requires her to go up in the air, but still very strong. Kali, A tier. Was first pick for a while, kind of has fallen off once again because people learned how to play against the Kali. Not the hardest thing in the world. So while Kali's good, you don't need to know how to play Kali. You don't need to be playing Kali all the time. Khepri as a support, I'm putting him at A. I think he's good. Obviously, people still ban him all the time. I think he's a little overrated. His ult can be annoying, but you can focus him early game, and as soon as he falls behind, the ult isn't annoying anymore because you just let him get his ult off, and you go to somebody else. You don't have to full commit to somebody and blow him up before the ult goes off. Sometimes you need to put some damage into him when they start to get low, and the second a Khepri ults, switch to somebody else. Kill the Khepri. Because it's very, very easy to kill the Khepri. He has no mobility. Super easy. Falcon, I think he's underrated. A tier, he has great clear, you can land the ults and hit the squalls, which is your 1, you will dumpster. While the mobility is a little bit lacking, you have a lot of speed from the 2, and the fact that you can kind of control and save yourself using your 3 and using your slow. While, like I said, it requires more skill, he is very good right now, and I think people will start to realize that over time. Kumbhakarna is going to be A+. Kumbhakarna is amazing in this meta. While his lane clear isn't the best in the world, he has so much team pressure in either aggression or peel. It's insane. Root, a 4-second mez, whatever, a knock-up that can set up a teammate super hard, like a Scylla or Vulcan or Raijin, anybody. Just very good. He's got a little bit of burst damage in his 1. It's kind of funny because he's kind of like a Bacchus with a ton of CC. Just what he reminds me of, because he has so much damage. While it's more single target based, it's insane. Loki, poop tier. I hate Loki. C, don't play Loki. He's got no place in the meta. I don't like him. Everyone just split pushes with him, and you only beat people who don't know what they're doing with split push. You can just focus a Loki, target a Loki, gank him over and over again, invade his buffs on cooldown. At level 1, I'm invading a Loki every real game. Loki sucks. Medusa is okay. A little bit more scary, easy to dive a Medusa. A lot of people don't get hit by the ult unless you combo it perfectly or time it perfectly. Most people can juke the ult. It's not that hard. But with Golden Bow, the fact that you do have a lot of early game pressure, as long as you're invading and taking advantage of that, Medusa's great. Mercury, A tier. I don't think he's the best. I think his early game sucks. But the fact that Golden Bow gives you movement speed now, the fact that there's Wind Demon in the game, his potential to carry is still there. And the fact that you can pair him with gods like Isis and still get that early game pressure, you'll be good to pick a Mercury if you like Mercury. Neith, still pretty good. Nothing really wrong with her at all, honestly. Golden Bow doesn't help her all that much, but she's still good. She's got the global presence. She went from like a top ADC pick to an okay ADC pick. She's played in the middle more, I see now. You can learn to play her. It's not bad if you like her player. She's just not a top pick. She is safe. She's a good pick, though. Nemesis, B+ for me. Nemesis isn't bad. He's just situational. You have to have control. I like playing Nemesis with an Isis because Isis has control. Has a silence, has a stun, has a lot of setup. Nemesis is great for killing tanks, great for ganking the solo lane early game, and just strong in that sense, but not strong in a sense where no early game. If you pair a Nemesis with something who doesn't have a lot of control, you'll get wrecked. If your support isn't like an Athena or a Kumba, get wrecked. If you have like a Geb or stuff that's more defensive, it's not going to work out for you playing Nemesis at all. Nija, A+ tier. Nija's great in this meta. Early game is great. Beads are on a long cooldown, so landing your ult is easy. You can bait beads with your stun. You can set up for a lot of the mids that are in the game. Villa, pretty much is the number 1. Raijin's very good. Culkin, all can be set up for all those. You have an Isis. It's also good to just, you don't need to set up the ult. You just kind of have a lot of damage. So that is good. Nox, situational. You miss any of the kit. If you miss the 1 when you have a 2 on them, then you don't do any damage. If you only use the 1 and don't use the 2, really don't do any damage. She's more of like a defensive mage in my opinion for using your silence to interrupt a lot of abilities, but most abilities don't interrupted. I don't know. I just don't think she's that good. Nuwa, A tier. Just a safe pick. Global ult. While you don't have a ton of mobility, your ult can get you out of a lot. If mages are getting banned for you a lot, Nuwa's like a 6-7 pick for me. I don't think she's the best, but she's just super safe. Very, very safe. Odin, B+, situational. Gods that don't have leaps and healing. Pick Odin. That's it. They pick a Guan, you pick an Odin, you focus the Guan. There you go. Basically how it works. Well, and I don't think Odin is the best because of the new item that lets you walk through Odin's wall if you use an active. That's why Odin isn't A tier. He's just B+, super situational. Have to take advantage of Odin early. Osiris, A tier. Does fine in lane, nothing wrong with him. Can get ganked pretty easily in my opinion, but a normal safe pick. You know? Okay. Poseidon, B+, actives wreck Poseidon. Everyone has an Aegis against Poseidon. Poseidon doesn't have a ton of mobility early game. His damage really requires a decent amount of farm. You gotta finish a couple items to start blowing people up. You need huge ults where people don't use actives. This doesn't happen that much, so he's situational. Ra, no mobility, situational. People are going to pick up an anti-healing and just dive a Ra over and over again. Raijin, S tier. I think Raijin is one of the best mages in the game. Very strong, ton of damage, clears at level 1, has mobility with a crazy leap dash thingamajigger. blink, whatever you want to call it. They up buff the ult so you can get off a full ult very easily now. And strong. Banned in a lot of games. If you're playing improperly, you can burst somebody down 100-0 once you finish like 3 items. Rama, A+ tier. I think Rama is great. I think a lot of people don't know how to use the ult right. You kind of just use it to last hit somebody or try to stay safe for a few more seconds before they die. I think there's much better ways to take advantage of the ult, and I think his clear is very good, so he's A+ tier. B. Ratatasker, SS. Broken as shit. Completely broken. Absolutely. Alright. So your one has a slow and does like a buttload of damage, like 450 damage without scaling or some shit like that. I don't know. It's something crazy, even with scaling, whatever. Let's say it's 450 damage and a slow. Either way, you have a slow. Your 2, 450 damage or something. I'm just guessing with these numbers. Obviously, they're off, but they're pretty close. 450 damage, and you shred protections. Your 3, 450 damage, and you stun. Your ult, like 450 damage, and when you land on them, you knock them up, dude. You have a knock up, a stun, a protection shred, and a slow. Your 1 gets reset when you use other abilities after using your 1, so you can slow them again and dash for another 450 damage. That's not a real kit. They put every god's kit and every ability into the game in a Ratatasker. 4 damaging abilities, 3 CCs, and a protection shred. It's crazy. It blows my mind how that's real life. SS tier. If Rat makes it into the SPL without getting nerfed, he will get banned and never get picked. Ever. Ever. He will always be banned. Ravana, A+ tier. Great solo lane pick. Not many counter picks. So much play potential with the immunity and the ult. Just the fact that you can't really control a team, but you can just put so much pressure on them with damage being super tanky. And the fact that you can't get hit by a lot of CCs because of your immunity is just super strong. Scylla, S tier. With the buff to Soulstone and the buff and the fact that you can go purple pot and just clear early game, completely changed Scylla. And they also buff Scylla's late game with scaling and damage. So Scylla basically came into the meta with swinging. Amazing. She's great. Learn how to play her. If you get the ults, you get any resets, you pretty much win a team fight, and then it's GG. Serket, to me, is actually A+. I think Serket is great. I think she's gonna see her way back into the meta. They nerfed Serket a while ago, buffed her again, and ever since they buffed her again, people kind of forget that she's good. But she is very strong. Gank solo lane meta is back, and that's what Serket excels at. She's so good at killing one. If she can get into a fight where it's 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, she will dumpster. Getting taunts on 2 gods, getting double taunts, and getting a 1-off on both of them crushes people. It's insane. That's one of the, it's like one of the best solo combos you can do on 2 people, next to like Ninja Ring Bounce. Insane. So, Serket, something you want to play in the jungle. Gotti, I used to think was going to be good, but he's not. His dog does a buttload of damage, but he's just so immobile, it's risky as shit to pick him. He's going to get dove a lot, and that's pretty much what it comes down to. Sobek, A+. Sobek's one of the best supports in the game. You can control lane while you don't have a ton of lane pressure. You do have the pluck for kills, you have the knock up for peels, you have a heal on yourself for sustain, you have an ult that slows, that does a lot of damage. It's just a great pick. Soul has kind of fallen off a little bit. I never liked Soul even when she's picked first all the time. Okay in mid, okay in ADC, A tier for me. Wukong, okay solo lane pick, not bad. Whoever likes to play it. Good, go for it. Wukong is fine. Susano, I want to put Susano in SS, but he's not rat tier. Very close to rat tier, but he's not rat tier. Putting him in S+. He's broken. His damage scaling is too high on his 1. He can one-shot people early game. He can literally kill mages in 1 shot. If he blinks to them, uses his 1, ultims a few times, say they dash away and he pulls them back with his 2, he ults their death. Like, you can literally full combo anybody, pretty much, unless they're tanks. Sylvanas, I think Sylvanas is a great pick. I think he's undervalued. Might just be me, but from what I've seen, he is strong. Lane pressure is key. Just keeping up with the lane pressure is what you got to do. You need to make sure you have the right, maybe not the right team comp, but you have to just play it right. You have to make sure you're controlling the game. Don't let them die to Sylvanas over and over again. Sylvanas is great. Thanatos, B+ tier. He's very situational. Like there's very few times I can imagine playing him unless you're going for full early game dive. Or S tier will always be the best jungler, one of the top junglers in the game, no matter what. Global pressure, tons of early damage, goal mid to late game, strong. Here, safe pick in solo lane, nothing wrong with him. A tier. Uller, A tier, kind of fallen off a little bit. He just doesn't excel a ton with the golden bow because he uses so much mana and you want to fight with him. But he's not bad. You can play him and you'll be fine. Omana, A tier, nothing wrong with him in the solo lane. Does well. Good. Really nothing too risky about it. If they get an Odin or a Surcat, you're probably going to die over and over and over again. Or Nemesis. Vulcan, A tier. I think because Zeus is so good, and unless Zeus is banned, you can't really pick a Vulcan. So I'm not going to say Vulcan's situational. He is actually pretty good. If you use him right, his ult got buffed so it lands faster. Most people don't know how to play Vulcan right. That's the problem. Xbalanque, A+. I think Xbalanque is amazing. I think the ult right now, for some reason, more than ever, is the most annoying thing in the world. People don't know how to play around it. And with Golden Bow, you have lane clear. Weak3n, poo-poo, situational. I don't know where he's going to fit in the game at all, to be honest with you. Ymir, poo-poo, situational. Most people aren't even playing Ymir that used to play him back in the day. No mobility, eerie pick, risky. Zeus, A+. Great clear, low mobility, gotta watch out for gods that can dive you, but you just have so much control early game that it doesn't matter. Zhongkui, situational, doesn't get played, get dove, Urket, Nemesis, dumpster Zhongkui, a lot of gods dumpster Zhongkui. Doesn't have the best clear, doesn't have the best team fight all the time. Shell counters Zhong also. Zhong ults, you pop Shell, GG. So, there is my tier list. I will grab the link to this and put it in the description below. Hopefully you guys liked the video. Let me know what you guys think, or you guys think I messed up. Don't be assholes. Just tell me where you think I messed up. Don't be saying, don't think you're right, because even I don't think I'm completely right. Don't be that guy. Just let me know what you guys think, and I will see you all in the video.
Sacred stone. Oh, this you crazy mother.